Yo, what is going on, guys? It is Boy Nick here, back again with a brand new video today. So this video is the second episode of my series where I'm reviewing every single Sony Spider-Man Universe movie up to the release of Across the Spider-Verse coming out in June. And today we're actually reviewing my personal favorite of the Sony Spider-Man Universe, Spider-Man 2, directed by Sam Raimi, which came out in 2004. So if you guys saw my review last week for the first Spider-Man movie, you guys know that I really love the first Spider-Man movie. I think it's marvelous. I think it's one of the best superhero movies of all time. And something that I forgot to mention in that video that I should have mentioned is that although I do love the first Spider-Man movie, I actually like Spider-Man 2 better. It's actually my personal favorite of these series, and I think it takes everything about the first movie and just propels it to another level. I think Spider-Man 2 is one of the best sequels ever made, and as the first one is one of the best superhero movies ever made, this is also one of the best superhero movies ever made. Spider-Man 2 is an amazing superhero movie, so let's talk about it. Of course, I gotta talk about the amazing returning cast. I mean, we have the same cast in the first movie and this movie, and they all do an excellent job. Of course, Tobey Maguire, he still does an excellent job at portraying Peter Parker, and it actually brings like a new element to the character this time. He does a really good job at capturing the struggle of being Peter Parker and being Spider-Man, the duality there. He does a really good job at actually portraying the struggle with this character. I mean, he did a good job portraying the kind of outcast nerdiness of Peter Parker in the first one, but this one he actually does a really good job at portraying how being a person and being a superhero is a really hard thing to do. And I think Tobey really captures that struggle very beautifully, actually. James Franco is still really great as Harry, and we actually see a whole different side to him this time, and it really does show you how great of a dramatic actor James Franco really is in this role. I mean, he was really good in the first one. I thought he did some great dramatic acting in that one, but in this one he just does it even better. I mean, we see more side to the character this time, and he does a really good job at putting on that other side of Harry, and it's not done in a black and white way. I really like the fact that they actually gave Harry a complex, layered story, and they actually do a really good job with it, and James Franco just killed it. Kirsten Dunst is also still very good as Mary Jane. She is a great dramatic actor in these movies. I think she actually does a better job in the second movie than she does in the first one. I mean, the first one she had some really great banter with Peter and with Harry, and she captured that drama between the characters very well, but in this one she's actually like a lot more passionate, I feel like, and they give her some more like details to her character, and we actually get to see more of her in this movie than we do in the first one. It makes her more interesting. It makes her feel less of a damsel in distress character, and actually like she matters to the story. And Kirsten Dunst plays her very well. Yeah, Rosemary Harris is still fantastic as Aunt May. We don't see her in this movie as much as we do in the first one. However, it's okay because it's all made up for the fact that all of her moments are memorable. She does an excellent job. I think she does a really good job, especially with Tobey Maguire in this movie. There's some really important scenes that go on that I really love. And she just has, I guess, more to do this time around, even though she's not in the movie as much as she was in the first one. But she still does an excellent job nonetheless. And that's one of the best things about this movie, is that the whole cast has an excellent character arc from the first movie. The turmoil between all these characters feels very real. It actually feels like there's real emotional stakes. That's the thing I love about this trilogy. They were actually willing to take risks with the characters and actually make them do things that maybe don't seem very cliche with a lot of these characters. I mean, they actually like had stakes go on between these characters, and it feels like things matter. So whenever something is not right between these characters, it feels like something really important that shouldn't happen maybe will happen, or something really important is going to happen. It actually feels like you don't know what to expect, and that's what I really love about the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, and the actors do a great job of portraying that. I also wrote down, I like how J. Jonah Jameson feels a little bit more important in this movie. He's still a funny comic relief character, obviously, but there's just a couple scenes with Jameson where it actually kind of plays an important role into Peter's arc that I actually kind of like. And J.K. Simmons is fantastic. As I said, never recast J. Jonah Jameson. If you're going to have J. Jonah Jameson, always bet on J.K. Simmons. Enough said. Just like the first one, there's also some really funny moments that are sprinkled into this. This one actually does feel a little bit more dramatic than the first one in a few senses, not entirely. I mean, the tone is slightly different, but it does a great job at capturing the drama, but I like the fact that there's also still that humor that the first one had. It does a really good job at putting humor in it without overdoing it, without too many jokes. And the humor, whenever it's there, is actually very well done. I think it works very well with the scene. And there's one scene that I find very interesting, where they're talking about things going on with Doc Ock, which I'll get to in a second, where Jameson wants to come up with a name for the character. And at one point, the guy he's talking to says, "What about Doctor Strange?" And he goes, "I love it. Too bad it's already taken." And I'm looking back at this, and I'm just like, wait. You're telling me that Doctor Strange exists within the Spider-Man Raimi-verse? And now that we have the weird stuff going on with Strange and Sam Raimi directing Multiverse of Madness and all that, he might. I'm not jumping into conspiracy theories or anything, but I just thought that was a funny little Easter egg. I've always found that funny. And just as of recently, it's really interesting. I don't know, it's just a funny little thing that I like, and I like the fact that that little Easter egg's in the movie. Now, of course, this is the big one when talking about this movie. Alfred Molina is fantastic as Otto Octavius and Doc Ock, and I wrote down that he's a different type of villain than Norman Osborn, and that's a good thing. I like the fact that they didn't just have the same villain that Green Goblin was in the first one. I like the fact that they actually gave a different villain this time around who has a completely different mindset, completely different origin, completely different everything. He's a completely different kind of character. We actually really like him the first time we meet him. A little bit like Norman, but he's nowhere near as unhinged as Norman was. And also, the thing that I like about Doc Ock is that there's actually layers to his character. I mean, he has some tragedy within the things that happen to him, and a lot of the stuff that happens to him is kind of out of his control. And it makes for a really interesting story because although he does terrible things, and they are terrible, I like the fact that Otto Octavius is not just some cruel, sadistic villain. I like the fact that there's actually, like, this is happening because of this. I like the fact that there's actually explanations for why he does what he does, and it's actually, like, really compelling. I think it makes for a fantastic villain. And, Alfred Molina, my god, that guy did an awesome job. As I previously said, I like the fact that the turmoil from the first movie carries over into this one. I also like the fact that the consequences that we see within the first movie also carry into this one. This is a great continuation of the first movie, which is why, in my opinion, Spider-Man 2 is actually one of the greatest sequels ever made. I mean, it's an amazing movie that's even better than the first movie, which was really incredible, but it actually, like, moves the story along very well. Like, it's the consistency of the story from the first to the second one is really, like, unmatched, I feel like, for a lot of movies. They did a great job continuing the story arcs from the first one to the second one. I can't give the writers enough credit for that. Although this film does a beautiful job at portraying the message of our gifts being a blessing and a curse, it's kind of interesting because it makes Spider-Man even more of a real human than he already was, which is saying something. But it just kind of shows you, like, we all look at these superheroes and we like to think that it would be cool to be them, but then we see superheroes are humans just like us and they have struggles just like us. So maybe we don't want to be superheroes, but I think it does a great job of that. I like the fact that Spider-Man actually has issues after high school. I mean, in the first one, he's a nerdy kid who gets bullied and he becomes Spider-Man, but, like, he actually has real problems going on just in his life, and it makes the character feel so much more human. I think that's a great message to have in a movie, that even though our blessings are a gift, sometimes they're not always a gift, sometimes they're a curse. I also love the action sequences within the first movie, and the action sequences in Spider-Man 2 are even better in my opinion. I think they're better choreographed, I think they're better recorded, I think they're better shot, and I also think that just the setup for all of it and the intense feeling is even bigger this time around. And something that I also wrote is that this movie also has better CGI. One of my very few complaints about the first Spider-Man movie was that some of the CGI feels a bit dated. The CGI in this movie is noticeably better. There's only really a few little small frames where the CGI doesn't really work for me. But outside of the small frames, the CGI for this movie has aged beautifully. It's a film that I can still look at to this day in 2023, which this film's 19 years old now, and still go, that is an amazing looking shot. Like, it still looks real. And that's really a big compliment I can give a movie that's this many years old, is that it still looks fantastic to this day. Yeah, this movie is also beautifully directed and edited. I mean, there's one scene in particular which I won't go too much into because I don't want to talk about spoilers for this movie. The scene in the hospital, that is a incredibly well-directed scene. Sam Raimi directed the absolute crap out of that scene. It actually kind of felt like a horror scene inside of a superhero movie. And it shows that Sam Raimi is a horror director, and so it's so cool to see that kind of, like, element in there. But also just the way the camera is set up with so many scenes, as well as the dialogue and the characters, the choreography, the way that everything is portrayed is so well done. And Sam Raimi just directed the hell out of this movie. He absolutely knocked it out of the park. Once again, this film also has a fantastic score from Danny Elfman. I like the fact that the score that was so great about the first one is also in this one. And just like the first one, it does an excellent job at bringing out more emotions in the scenes. And especially during one scene with a building, which I won't say too much about that scene, that music feels really intense in that moment, and so many other things. Just, man, Danny Elfman's score really is an excellent attribute to this film, and the score combined with Raimi's direction really brings out the emotions very well. This film also has very satisfying conclusions with the character. There's, like, times where it seems like they're taking risks with the character, and they are taking risks, but they're also making sure that they make sense and they actually give satisfying conclusions to each of the characters, and that's one of the best aspects of Spider-Man 2. And something else that I wrote here is that it's also a great setup for Spider-Man 3 without making it the prime focus of the movie. It sets stuff up for Spider-Man 3, but very, very, like, how do I say it? It sets it up in the background, kind of. It's not like, oh yeah, by the way, you're going to get all the satisfying stuff in the next movie. It's like, no, we're doing our own amazing movie here, and we're just setting up a few little things on the side for the next movie. I think they did that very well. We'll talk more about Spider-Man 3 when that review comes out in a few days, but I think the setup for Spider-Man 3 is really good. All in all, I love Spider-Man 2. It's my favorite Spider-Man movie to this day. My flaws are like really so minute that it basically doesn't change my opinion on it at all. I wrote, as I previously mentioned, there's only a few frames that look kind of odd. Aside from those few frames, incredible looking movie. And then I have this one thing that, like, I don't even have the complaint listed on it. I just have it listed as stupid complaint. This is just something that, like, for me personally was kind of weird, but it's not really, it doesn't matter at all, is that for whatever reason, something that I appreciate about the first movie was the look that they kind of gave for MJ. I like the fact that she had, like, bright red hair because it gave her that kind of, like, comic book MJ kind of feel. And in this one, her hair is a lot more natural looking red, kind of like a strawberry red. And, like, there's nothing wrong about the way she looks or anything like that, but it's kind of just, like, weird to see that inconsistency of super, like, comic booky looking MJ in the first one to more natural looking one in this one. And it's just one of those things where it's, like, it's so minute it doesn't even matter. It doesn't change my enjoyment of the film at all, but it's kind of just that thing where it's, like, that's a weird little thing. I don't know, it's just kind of weird to me. And I also kind of like the fact that they made her comic book accurate in the first one. It made it feel like, yeah, there's a comic book movie, but they're real people. And then in this one, it was like, we'll make it slightly more realistic. I mean, it's a stupid complaint. Who cares at the end of the day? It doesn't change my enjoyment to the movie at all. And this movie is, like, I feel as close to perfect as a Spider-Man sequel is ever going to get. It's a really amazing movie. And I don't even like talking about whether or not movies are perfect, because I feel like that's just not a fun conversation to have, because I feel like any movie can be seen as flawed in the eyes of someone, you know? I mean, there's very few movies that I consider perfect, so these things, like, don't even matter. It doesn't ruin my enjoyment of Spider-Man 2 at all. Spider-Man 2 is a phenomenal superhero movie. It's one of the best of all time, one of the best sequels ever made, and of course, I'm going to give Spider-Man 2 an overall rating of a 10 out of 10. Marvelous, marvelous superhero movie. I adore this movie, and of course I'm going to give it an A+. It's Spider-Man 2. What else would you want me to give it? So that was my review for Spider-Man 2. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. Make sure that you tune into my channel just a few more days to watch my review of Spider-Man 3. That'll be coming out, I think, on Saturday or Friday. I haven't entirely decided yet. Today's Wednesday when I'm recording this, so you'll get that at some other point this week, as I was kind of held a week back with my Spider-Man reviews, so be on the lookout for that, as well as other Sony Spider-Man Universe reviews coming out in the future. And I will also have a review for Falcon and the Winter Soldier coming out at some point this week, I think maybe on Friday, and that's because of my series where I'm also reviewing every MCU Disney Plus thing up to Secret Invasion, so be on the lookout for all of that. Also, make sure that you go follow all my socials in the description. Go follow me on Twitch, Instagram, and TikTok so you guys can keep up with other stuff I'm doing, as well as content I'm posting on other pages, so go check all that out. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure that you hit the like button, hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get notified about latest videos. Leave a comment down below letting me know what you think. And yeah, it's been it. Peace.